start class, I've got two things I want to talk about. One thing is, I did add something, and some of you might notice when you pull up your I'll just pull it over here so y'all can see it. When you pull up your Teams, and it goes to this is your bulletin board where it's post. If you look over here, I did add MyLabs Plus to the, I guess you'd call it the table of contents up here. So you can go into Teams now, and you can go to MyLabs Plus from Teams, kind of like you did from Blackboard, only I think it'll work better in Teams. Everything works better besides Blackboard. So anyway, that's something new that I added last night. Try it out and see if you like it. If you don't, then just go to the website.
Priority 1 message coming in on secured channel.
The other thing is I have received some, let me move this back over. Let me go back to the class, move this back over. And I did receive some emails from y'all, or from both classes. I don't know if they're from both or not. Let me go ahead and pull them in, and we'll look at those. The first question, and I'll just move this over. 120. There's some questions right there. I want to put them in order, but I don't know if it'll let me. Let's see, by subject. There we go. And there's several questions, so these are old, so I'm not going to worry about these. I need to delete those. But let's go ahead and look at the questions that were sent so far. Long as we're in the 2.1 and below homework, I don't mind going over them. This question right here is 1.2, number 19 in the book. It looks like number 19 in the book, and it's number 10 online. So the way that I refer to these homework questions is I say 1.2, 19/10. And that way you can put it in your notes as number 19 in the book, number 10 online. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, Hubert, we understand. Thank you. All right, so it says, now I can tell you right now, this is not a test question. Why? Because it's too wordy. These wordy, half a paragraph questions, I don't like them, okay? I don't like them because you have to be a Philadelphia lawyer to understand them. So I'm a math teacher. I'm not an English/psychology teacher. So I don't personally care for these long, and I don't like the questions that are A through Z, 15 parts. I don't care nothing about those either. So when you see, when I go over a homework question, I'll tell you if it's a good test question or not. And I can tell you right now, this one's not. But it's a homework question, so we need to go over it. It says, researchers wanted to determine if having a cushioned chair in the bedroom is associated with obesity. Researchers administered a questionnaire to 389 12-year-old adolescents. After analyzing the results, the researchers determined the body mass index of adolescents who had cushioned chairs in their bedroom was significantly higher than the adolescents who did not have a cushioned chair in the bedroom. Okay, before you even get started, let's talk about this experiment. Could there be a link? Yes, there could be a link, because if somebody wanted a cushioned chair, what do they really like? They like to be comfortable, right? Exercise is not comfortable to some people. Okay, so therefore you do have a link there. If somebody wants to be comfortable all the time, then you could say, well, you just like to be comfortable, so you don't like to exercise, so you're naturally going to gain weight. You could go that route. Then again, you could go with the same route, well, like to be comfortable, like to have comfort food, like to eat. You could go that route. But then again, you could say, well, just because somebody has a comforted chair does not mean they don't like to run or don't like to work out or whatever. So you've got both sides, okay? But what you have to understand is there's more to people than just a comforted chair. You can't just, oh yeah, people are overweight because they have a comforted chair in their room. No, that's redneck disorder. You can't do that, okay? So the researchers administered a questionnaire. So that would be, you know, why is this an observational study? It's because the researchers administered a questionnaire to obtain their data without trying to influence, okay? Now, it would be an experiment if every time they sat in that chair, they had to run a lap around the house. That would be an experiment, okay? But in this case, they just sent out a questionnaire and that's all they did. It's a cross-sectional study because it's of the present, all right? What is the response variable? The response variable is, does the person gain weight? The explanatory, yeah. Explanatory, or whatever the word is, that would be, does the person have a what? A cushioned chair. So before you even look at all these wordy sentences, figure out what the basic plan of observation is. And the basic plan is, does the person have a cushioned chair, and after so many years, does that person gain more weight than somebody that doesn't have a chair? That's what you're doing. Now you've got to try to cipher and see which one of those answers is in here. So you look at B, it says, what is the qualitative, what is the response variable? The response variable is, does the person gain weight? The explanatory is, does the person have a chair, a comforted chair, a cushioned chair? And is the response quantitative or qualitative? Okay, so let's look and see what it says. The response variable is whether the adolescent has a cushioned chair. The response is whether, which one says to gain weight? Right here. The response variable is the body mass index of the adolescents. The response variable is quantitative. I think that's it. Yeah, I think D is it. We got it right. What is the explanatory? Somebody read those and tell me. I see cushion chair, so it's one of those that says cushion chair. It's whether the adolescent has a cushion chair, the number of adolescents who have a cushion chair. I would say it's probably C, but I might be wrong on this one. Might be A. Yeah, it's A. Okay, what's next? Is that the, okay. Can you think of a lurking variable? Yeah, I can think of a lot of lurking variables. Mainly that the person thinks of comfort all the time. And if the person thinks of comfort, then they might, you know, be on the, I don't want to go outside side. Okay, so that may be one thing. Eating habits, yes. That would probably be it. Why do I absolutely say you can't say no? Because we've got all kinds of variables on us. Okay? Can you just say everything is cut and dry? No, you can't. And in probability and statistics, you can't do that. You can't say, well, this person shut up the school because he's stupid. You can't do that. Okay? You can't say these trees are dying because people didn't take care of them. No, you can't say that. People, that's redneck disorder. You can't have redneck disorder in probability and statistics. Okay? There's got to be a lurking variable most of the time, unless you've got something like this. How about the gas mileage of cars and their weight? Is there any lurking variables there? No. The more your car weighs, the what? The less gas mileage you got, or the worse gas mileage you got. So I would say yes, for example, might be eating habits. Oh my gosh, are we going to Z on this thing or what? In the report, the researchers stated these results remain significant after adjustment for socioeconomic status. What does this mean? Well, everybody knows what socioeconomic status means. What does that mean? How much money is coming into the house? Okay? So the researchers made an effort to avoid confounding by accounting for potential lurking variables. It means that socioeconomic status is an explanatory variable that including this variable in the study changes the results. It means that the socioeconomic status is not an explanatory variable, and that including this variable is the study does not change the results. It means that when the results are separated by socioeconomic status, there are significant differences between each socioeconomic status. I would pick A, but I don't think that's possible because I don't think you're going to be able to. Let's see if it's A. That's what I would go with. And that's right. Because you don't want socioeconomic status in something like this because it just wouldn't, that's more work for you as a probability. I know this is boring. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's boring, but I know you got one of these questions on your homework, so hopefully it'll help you out. Does a cushioned chair in the bedroom cause you to have a higher body mass? No. I would say no. Because, you know, that has to do with you. So it's either B or C. The results state the cushioned chair in the bedroom causes a higher body, but the conclusion cannot be made. I would say probably B, because it says the conclusion cannot be made. So I would say B. Nope, probably C then. I knew it had to be no. Who has a cushion? It says no, it can only be said that cushioned desk chair in the bedroom and obesity are associated because the body mass index of the adolescents who had a cushioned chair was significantly higher. Okay, I didn't read that part. Okay, so significantly higher. Okay, is this a test question? Hail to the no. Okay, this is not a test question. This is a homework question. Treat it as a homework question, but you got to think a little bit. I mean, it's just a little bit of thinking, and I would suggest thinking about this question before you look at the wordy answers, because if you can tell, the wordy answers can be what? They can be confusing. So on a problem like this, read the question and think about it before you look at all these Philadelphia lawyer answers. That helps. Hopefully that helps somebody. Okay, next question. I'm going to delete that one. This one is 1.3.1. This is number 1 in the book. Number 1 online. Oh my Lord, this is one of those things that I think they just made up a word to make it sound sophisticated. But a frame is a list of people that's in the population or the sample. A frame is a list of individuals of the population being studied. Okay, so that's it. Is it a test question? No, because I do not like to give test questions of wordy, dirty words. I don't like to give a test question because it was a made-up word to make somebody look important. Frame is a made-up word to make somebody look important. So I don't test you on that. But that's what a frame is. So the frame of your population of Tri-County Tech students, the frame is the list of the students. Not a test question. This is 1.37 in the book, number 3 online. And there we go. All right, now this one, it's not a test question, but it's kind of important that you understand how to do it. And you need to look at the courses, and there's the courses. So write those courses down. You don't have to write down just write down 663, 698, 696, 632, and 621. And you want to make what's called a sample space. Write down the word sample space. A sample space is the combinations of these 5 courses. You with me? So the first one would be 663, 698. I mean, how many they tell you? How many you gonna take? 2 courses. Okay. 663, 698, 663, 696, 663, 632, 663, 621. And then 698, 663, 698, 696, 698, 632, 698, 621. Everybody see what I'm doing? 696, 663, 696, 698, 696, 632, 696, 621. 632, 663, 632, 698, 632, 696, 632, 621. And then 621, 663, 621, 698, 621, 696, 621, 632. And you should go through and knock out the what? The ones that are duplicates. Okay, just like in the first one I did 663 and 621. 621 and 663, that's duplicate. So mark that out. Only leave one of them. And then you can answer your questions. Everybody see how I did that? I'm just not going to write it all over the board. 663, 698, 663, 696, 663, 632, 663, 621. Now moving to the second one. 698, 663, 698, 696, 698, 632, 698, 621, 696, 663, 696, 698, 696, 632, 696, 621, 632, 663, 632, 698, 632, 696, 632, 621, and 621, 663, 621, 698, 621, 696, 621, 632. And then after you write all those down, you take a red pen and knock out the ones that are duplicates, and that's your sample space. That is not a test question, but you ought to be able to make a sample space. And then, of course, they tell you to, now that one, H is not, how do I know that H is not an answer? Because what? Because there's 3 courses, and it says what? 2 courses. Also, you can't take the same course twice. Unless you just like wasting money. So look for any duplicates, look for any that doesn't fit, and the rest should be in your sample space. Okay? This is 1.37, is that the same one? 7/3. Looks familiar, yeah, same one. And see, you see that red X right there? You got a duplicate. That's 3, so that would be not in there. There's another duplicate. But that's how you get your sample space. What was that one again? Just in case. Let me make this go out a little bit. Okay, that's in a 1.3. 1.46/4. Determine whether the following statement is true or false. When taking a systematic random sample of size n, every group of size n from the population has the same chance of being picked. False. And then why is that false? Because if I break up the class into 5 or 10 groups, and I pick every second group, then one group, the first group is not going to be picked. The third group is not going to be picked. The 5th group is not going to be picked. The 7th group is not going to be picked. And the what? The 9th group is not going to be picked. So if you do a systematic random sample with a group of people, or with several groups, then everybody doesn't have the same chance of being what? Picked. And that's why it's false. It's not a very good test question. It's kind of a tricky test question. And the key word here is what? Group. So not a very good question as far as from the book. I wouldn't put it on a test, that's for sure. So at least the questions that you're sending are questions that are not test questions. At least that's one thing in common. I haven't seen one yet that's a good test question. The next one is 2.19/4. 2.19/4. And this probably has to do with the frequency distribution. No, it's just a chart. Okay, the following graph represents blah, 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 blah. Depends on situations, morally wrong, morally acceptable. Depends on situation, looks like 10%. I can't tell at a 15-degree angle here. That looks like 10%. Morally wrong is about 19%. And morally acceptable, what is that, 72 or 73%? Yeah, it looks about right, Hubert. Good, thank you, class. So, what percent of responders believe that it's morally acceptable? About 70%. Keyword is about, okay? Keyword about means somewhere around 70%, and that's true because 70 is right there. If there are 210 million adults, we better get the calculator out. 210 million results or people. 210 million times, we said that 19% is morally wrong. So it would be point times 0.19. What does that round to? 40 million. And that's where you get that right there. If an organization claimed that the results of the survey indicate that 9% of adults in the country believe that the action is acceptable in certain situations, would you say the statement is descriptive or inferential? Inferential because what is it doing? It's making a what? It's making a prediction. Remember, descriptive tells you what is now. You've got a B in the course. That doesn't tell you what you're going to make in psychology if you got a B in math. You see what I'm saying? It's not going to tell you, well, I got a B in math, so I predict from that information that I'm going to have a C in psychology. No, that don't work. Descriptive tells you this class, right now, you have a B in this class. Inferential tells you that something's going to happen in the future. Okay? Now, there's a couple of parts of this question that's a good test question. You ought to be able to read a bar graph. That's a good test question. You ought to be able to take 210 million and multiply it by 19% from a pie chart. That's a pie chart question. And this is okay definition of inferential, you know, but not a test question as far as a whole. It's not a test question. All right, that takes care of the questions that were sent so far. Make sure there's none hiding away in my other folders. I don't think so. Oh, I got another question. Somebody just sent it. Or I missed it. How did I miss that question? 1.1 45/19. How did I miss that question? I must have skipped it. All right, the data on the right, character, high definition, blah, 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 identify the individual variables and data. Okay, so in this setup, we got, in setup A, we got a 46-inch screen, projection, and 298 channels. 59 projection, 114 channels. So 46, what is that, inches? Somebody tell me what inches is. And y'all can speak. I'm asking y'all a question, so I'm not being rhetorical. What is inches?
Measurement.
Measurement. And what is measurement? Discrete or continuous?
Continue.
So C, exactly. Put a C over size because, well, Hubert, you're not going over the questions. No, I'm not going over the questions. We're looking at what's given and we're thinking about it before the questions are asked. Okay? What is projection in plasma? Somebody tell me what that is.
Qualitative.
Good. What's the average of projection in plasma? You can't give me the average. So it's qualitative. That means it's categories. So you would write qualitative on screen type. And number of channels. Is that quantitative or qualitative? Number is two things. It's number, you count. So what is that? Discrete or continuous?
Discrete.
Discrete, and it's also quantitative because it means something. 298 channels means that you have 298 channels. Now you should be able to answer the questions. What are individuals being studied? What are the individuals being studied? The high definition TVs A through E. What are the variables and their corresponding data being studied? So it's already answered. Size, that's projection, that's the categories, and then the number of channels available. I'm trying to see the difference. Oh, yeah, A, B, C, and D, that don't have anything to do with anything. And C, you don't have enough variables there. There's three variables being looked at: the size, the screen type, and the number of channels. A, B, C, and D, you might as well call that name brands. That means nothing. Determine whether each variable is qualitative, continuous, or discrete. Size, continuous. Screen type, qualitative. And number of available, discrete. Now, I like that question. That could be a test question. Why did I say it could be? Because this is a new question. I've never seen this question before. Sometimes they put questions in that are new. I've never seen this one before. So it could be a test question. All right, so that completes our homework questions for today. So let's move back over. Let me move this back over. And let's continue with 2.4. Organizing quantitative data. Now, why doesn't it say organizing qualitative data? Because you can't do anything mathematically with qualitative data. You can just do a head count. That's it. So please highlight the word quantitative. And I would put down beside quantitative, I would put qualitative, no can do. Because you can't take the average of blondes, brunettes, and redheads. You can only count. That's all you can do. So you will not get a test question or a homework question that will ask you to do anything with the qualitative data because it's not going to happen. All right, here's an example. You don't have to write this down. I'm just showing it to you. Number of arrivals at Wendy's, okay? And that shows how many people showed up at this Wendy's, maybe in a, let's see, 15-minute interval, okay? And it shows you how many people showed up. Now, the first thing you do with data is what? Organize. First thing you do is organize. You put it in and put all the numbers in one. In other words, How many 7s do we have? How many 2s do we have? How many 6s do we have? Be glad when we get to chapter 3. Okay. So when you do that, it's going to look like this. How many 1s do we have? 1. How many 2s do we have? 6. How many 3s do we have? And that's what it looks like. And then you can construct a histogram. A histogram is constructed by drawing rectangles of each class data, the height of the rectangle, 25-cent word. The histogram is nothing but a bar chart. And the only difference between a bar chart and a histogram, this is a test question, or standardized test question, is that the rectangles, what in a histogram? They touch each other. That's the only difference between a histogram and a bar chart. I wish they would put a explanation of why there is a difference between a histogram and a bar chart in this book. I've yet to see a statistics book that has. The reason we have histograms is blank. Because there is no reason. It's just a bar chart. Remember, if you do the head count and the average, the relative frequency, will the graph look the same? Yes, because the numbers are the same. Okay, if you do a head count, here's the head count, and you graph the relative frequency, the graph is going to be the same. All right. Now, what if you have continuous data? Then you're going to have a class over here. See the class? You got classes, and you got to find the midpoint. Now, when you're talking about a continuous data and tables, you're talking about a lower class limit. Write that down, lower class limit of 25, 35, 45, 55, and 65. Those are your lower class limits. Your upper class limits are 34, 34, 44, 54, 64, and 74. Now, these are the type questions you're going to hear on a standardized test. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions about this, but I'm not going to ask you what are the lower class limits and the upper class limits. I'm going to ask you the midpoint and stuff like that. But there are some standardized tests that will ask you what are the lower class limits, what are the upper class limits. Now, something I will ask you is the class width. How do you find the class width? I subtract 25 from 35, or 35 from 45, or 45 from 55, or 34 from 44, 44 from 54. All of them are the same. What is 44 minus 34? 10. So your class width on this table 10 is 10. The class width is 10. Open-ended. Make a note. Open-ended is when you have this, 40 and over. That's called open-ended. Make sure you make a note of that. because so they may ask you that on a standardized test. I'm not, but somebody might ask you that on a standardized test. Stem and leaf. I'm going to show you what a stem and leaf is, and you need to make sure you understand what it is. There is a stem and leaf plot right here. I'm going to blow it up so you can see it. Okay. There is a stem and leaf plot. Now, what did they do? Well, they took the previous data on this page. I'm just going to let you look at it. This data right here. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, all that stuff, okay? And they gave you the percent, 2-year average percent of persons living in poverty. Oh, Hubert, bite your tongue, don't say a word. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, and so on, okay? Now, they took those numbers and they put them right here. They did a relative frequency. Let's do the relative frequency. They should have done it. Okay, yeah. They didn't do a relative frequency. They did a percent. Okay. Notice the numbers: 16.4, 9.6. The lowest number, I'm looking for the lowest number. 9.6 is pretty low. Is there another number below 9.6?
8.6.
I'm looking.
New Hampshire.
Where do you see 8.6? Okay, New Hampshire, there's 8.6. Anybody see anything lower than 8.6? All right, somebody look for the highest number. There's 16.3, 22.2. Anybody see anything bigger than 22.2? Okay, now look at you see that 8.6 right there? 8.6 and 22.2. So what is this? This is 9.6. This is 10, 10.1, 10.2, 10.5, 10.5, 10.5, 10.6, 10.7, and 10.8. So how many states have a poverty rate of around 10%? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 states has a poverty rate of 10% or more, between 10 and 11%. How many between 11 and 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 states have a poverty rate between 11 and 12. How many states have a poverty rate between 15 and 16? I want somebody to answer it. I picked the easy one. Between 15 and 16. 16 is too much. It's 15.99, 15 to 15.99.
3.
3. But you had the right answer. You just were thinking add 6. You can't go above 16. 16 or below. It's 3. Okay. How many states have a poverty rate of 20%? but between 20 and 20.99%. 1, 20.2. And that's a stem and leaf plot. There's another stem and leaf plot. Now, also make a note about split stems. You might have a homework question about that. I don't test you on it, but there's a split stem. It's where you break it up into below 5 and above 5, 5 and above. Below 5, above 5. Below 5, above 5. Below 5, 5, above 5. So you got 4.6, 4.8, 4.0, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, or 3.2. Okay? So I don't see this done very often. Most of the time, this is a stem and leaf plot. I very rarely see a split stem and leaf plot. That's a standardized test question. It could be, or a homework question. I'm not going to test you on a split stem. Dot plots. Dot plots is the same, only you replace the decimal points or the ones or whatever you're using, the numbers, you replace them with dots. And that's it. Make sure you know the difference between a dot plot and a stem and leaf plot. Hey there. What you doing in here?
They said you wanted to do a test out of AC 137?
Yeah, but it starts at 9.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you can go on down there. I mean, I don't think there's a class. I mean, you can sit here if you want to learn about math.
No,
But I'll be downstairs at 9. It's not AC 137, is it? Make sure you understand. Okay, did they show you skewed right? Yeah. Write these down. Very important. So if you got a notebook, write these down. Uniform, bell-shaped, skewed left, skewed right. They're always the opposite. This is a test question. There's 4 test questions, and there they are right there, 4. And somebody's going to miss them because they don't write them down. Especially the skewed right, skewed left. Skewed right is when all the data is on the left. Skewed left is when all the data is on the right. It's always the opposite. Those are standardized test questions. I bet your bottom dollar they're standardized test questions. And they're also going to be on my test. Why do we not describe qualitative data? Because you don't know the average. And everything's centered in statistics around the what? The average. Okay? Like I say, we ain't got to the math yet. We're going to get to the math here shortly. In chapter 3, hopefully this is kind of boring, but I don't have any choice. What I could do is just let y'all read it and not even go over it. That's what I could do, but I don't like doing that. And that looks like that's the end of, yep, 2.2. So let's look at a little bit of 2.3 before y'all go into convulsions. And 2.3, good gosh. Graphical misrepresentations of data. Now I want you to read that. If you haven't read 2.3, I want you to read it because it's very important. You're going to get at least 3 questions off of this section because it's very important that you understand and pay attention to the graphics. The graphics, what I mean by graphics? Well, if they ever show you like these, where they don't show you a chart, they show you some kind of graphic, like in a newspaper or a magazine, like that. There's a soccer ball. That soccer ball, I will go over the soccer ball. That right there is a big misrepresentation, and it's also a test question if I can remember correctly. And always remember that a pie graph has to equal what? Make sure it equals 100, 20, 30, let's say 47. What is that? 59, 89. I think that's over, but you have to add them all up. So that's what 2.3 is looking at. So make sure you read over it. It's not a long section. It's just like several, okay, here we go. Here's some more graphics. These graphics right here, and the pie graph and the soccer ball, that type stuff, you're going to see on the test. There's one with a crib, and it talks about a barrel. The barrel, that's a test question. And there's the crib. What's wrong with the crib? There's 2 or 3 things wrong with the crib. Somebody tell me one thing that's wrong with the crib. Anybody? It's not equal to 100. What else? Proportion. This says 33%, and this says 18. 15. Well, what's half of 30? Half of 30 is 15. That 15 should be about right there. So it's not proportioned right. What's wrong with the barrels? Well, you could fit about 4 or 5 of these into this barrel. Okay? Even if you could fit 6 into this barrel, what's 6 times 7? 56, right? Or 42? What is 6 times 7? 42? What does this say? 691. Even if I could fit 6 of these in here, that still wouldn't equal 691. So is this proportion correct? No. That's the kind of things you're going to look at in 2.3. Okay, let me get my handy dandy recorder turned off. So right now, what